We, we'd also like to share our disclaimer. This session is intended to be informational and educational and does not constitute legal, medical, or financial advice. Consult your legal, healthcare, or financial advisor for advice regarding your personal situation. AARP is not responsible for the consequences of any decisions or actions taken in reliance upon or as a result of the information provided during this event. Today, we are joined by two members of AARP's volunteer fraud fighter team. AARP fraud fighters volunteer to help educate community groups, clubs, or professional organizations by identifying common scams and teaching people what to watch out for to avoid fraud or identity theft. Sarita Cardoza was first introduced to the importance of staying alert to scams and fraud when she worked for the federal government as a regulatory scientist for 20 years prior to retiring. Since then, she has been volunteering her time with AARP's Fraud Watch programs, educating others on how to recognize scams and keep safe from fraud. Sarita also volunteers for other AARP education programs such as Brain Health and does background tech work for AARP programs such as today's Tea and Coffee Tuesday event. Her other hobbies include volunteering as a garden docent with the Ruth Bancroft Garden, bird watching, and spending time with her family. Our primary speaker today is Heather Noss. Heather is an AARP volunteer and the founder of Scam Ready Family. She creates realistic scam simulation videos and other resources to build concrete scam defense skills and to provide the tools to help intervene with someone in a scam. She is an organizational change management professional who previously worked on projects for the U.S. Agency for International Development and had a previous career as a Foreign Service Officer with the U.S. Department of State. Now she is a full-time fraud fighter and scam prevention expert. Heather's going to start us off, and later we'll welcome Sarita back to lead our question and answer period. Heather, it's all yours. Take it away.
Great. Thanks very much. Let me just share my screen. Okay. Hello, everybody. It's great to be with you today. Today I'm going to be talking about scam defense skills. First, I want to say a little bit about me. I know I had a little introduction. Sometimes people aren't familiar with change management, so I just wanted to mention that for a sec. So for change management, that means that I help people with change and adapt to change. If you think of a basic example, when let's say you have a new computer system introduced at work or by some company in your life, is everyone thrilled about it? And they say, let me use this new computer system immediately with no trouble? No, that's the kind of thing I do, but in different areas. So explaining to people why a change is happening, how to deal with it, and the skills they need to move forward. So unfortunately, we are in a big change in our society. So this is it's called a negative change, but we've moved from a world where you could operate more or less normally in a digital environment to one where scammers are trying to get at us basically through every means of communication, and we have to be on our guard all the time. So it's an unfortunate change. I know it's not fair, but I'm going to hopefully help you deal with some of that today. As mentioned, I had a previous career with the State Department and USAID, where I had some postings overseas in Bosnia, Mexico City, and what I like to call the most foreign land of all, Washington, D.C. But now, as mentioned, I'm a full-time fraud fighter and scam prevention expert. I got into this because, unfortunately, I do have a family experience with scams. So a few years ago, my dad was actually the victim of quite a substantial scam. It started with a pop-up on his computer telling him he had a virus and ended with him transferring quite a large amount of money to the scammers. So I'll be bringing that more in as we talk today, but let's get started. So if you've ever seen a story on the news about a scam, which we do often, and you've wondered, how did that person believe that story? These incredible stories. Well, hopefully I'm going to answer that question today. So the plan for my talk today is to talk a little bit about how scams work, some examples of scam tactics, and then some skills practice. So how do we actually have some skills to deal with these scam attacks? So the most important thing to know about scams is that a scam is a psychological attack. And if you understand that, it helps deal with a lot of other things about scams. So what do I mean by that? I mean that scammers take advantage of how our brain reacts when we're under pressure, we're stressed, we're tired, or all of the above. They make a great study of this and they use it to push our emotional buttons in all of their communications, whether it's email, call, mail, all of the above. Um, and as we know, we all have moments where we can be taken advantage of in this way. I'm going to share some excerpts from some of my videos. So we'll get started with the first one, which goes over this concept a little bit more.
We do a lot to protect ourselves from obvious threats, but scammers, they don't come through the window. They don't need a weapon because they already have one, a psychological weapon. It's invisible, but it's powerful. It's how they get smart people to hand over passwords, how they get strong people to second guess themselves, how they turn a moment of confusion into a crime. Because this isn't about being dumb, it's about being human. That's because scammers aren't outsmarting you. They're baiting your automatic mind, the part of you that reacts quickly, not your rational mind that thinks slowly and carefully. Here are 3 ways that they do it. First, when you're already off balance. Paul was recovering from surgery. He was tired, in pain, still on meds. He went on his laptop to check the news and a pop-up flashed. Warning, your computer is infected. Call Windows support now. He picked up the phone. It wasn't really Microsoft. Within an hour, someone had remote control of his screen. By the time his wife called, their bank account was empty. The scammer sent out a trigger to thousands of people, and it found one of them who wasn't at his best. Paul's tired and medicated brain was going to react automatically. Paul is very smart, but he wasn't 100%. At that moment, he was vulnerable to a psychological strike. Next, when they put you off balance. Carmen was having a good day. She was heading to meet a friend when her phone rang. Hello?
Grandma, it's me. I was in a car accident and I've been arrested. I need bail money to get out. Please, do not tell Mom and Dad.
The call came from her grandson's number, and it sounded exactly like him. Her heart jumped. She didn't question it. An hour later, she'd sent money to a criminal. They didn't need to catch Carmen in an emotional moment. They used a psychological weapon to create an urgent emotion, and it worked. Finally, when it's too real to question it, Linda got an email from her manager.
Hey, Linda, can you grab some gift cards for my client meeting? I'm stuck in traffic. Just reply with the numbers.
She didn't question it. The tone was right. It came from his name. The signature looked legit. She bought the cards and sent the numbers. Later, her manager told her, I never sent that email. The scam wasn't loud. It wasn't scary. It was convincing and just like the real thing. The automatic mind also runs on routine and habit, and it's another way that scammers hijack your automatic mind. They simulate real situations so perfectly, your automatic mind reacts before your logic can catch up.
Okay, so I know that everyone on this call is always 100% rested, running on full capacity and 100% brain power. I know I am, right? But maybe we can understand that for everyone else, sometimes this is an issue. So from the first example, you're already off balance. We have off days, we have off moments, maybe it's the entire day. But for example, in my dad's case, the scammers caught him when his wife of 30 years was in hospice, and he was exhausted from going back and forth to the hospital for caring for her and already from years of caregiving. And literally he couldn't think straight. in our second example with, if you're familiar with the grandparent scam, but in any of these situations where they're attacking you with some emotional event. So if you get a call saying your grandson's arrested, or even more sinister, your family member has been kidnapped, they're going to put you in that state even if you weren't already. And last, as we know, with all the AI fakes and everything else, when it's too real to even question it, it just gets past us because we don't even know to think about whether it's a scam. That last example also comes from a real family example. My son, when he started a new job, within a week, got an email from his boss, quote unquote, asking him to buy gift cards for an event coming up. So fortunately for my son, or unfortunately, he had no money, so he did not have any money to send to them. So since he had just started, but again, all of these ways, that's the psychological attack. So knowing all that, who is vulnerable to scams? Humans with emotions, also known as everybody. I think that's important to understand. When we don't understand why someone believed a scam story, or even often on these types of talks I give, I know there's people probably in this group who have experienced a scam. So, knowing that it's really just something that anybody is susceptible to, hopefully is helpful to you. Today, I want to focus on the scammer's number one weapon. So for a scam to happen, what do they need to do? They need to get in touch with you, right? So the number one weapon to me is the phone. So a scam might start in a certain way, and this isn't for all scams, but for a lot of them, the scammer's main goal is to get you on the phone, right? They want to, and why is that? It's because our brains are just wired when we hear another human telling us there's danger or a problem or any other sort of issue, we're just kind of wired to listen to that, right? So they want to get on the phone with a voice. All right, so we're going to look at a couple other excerpts of how this comes into play in scams. So these are simulations of scams. So these are not real people, but they are definitely situations that happen all the time. And I think they're a good recreation of some of the typical scam sequences. So let's take a look.
Sam was trying to finish a client project with a major deadline, but he'd been sick the night before with hardly any sleep, so he was really struggling. In the middle of this, his phone rang. In his cough syrup haze, he picked up without thinking. The caller identified himself as Agent Brian Smith from the FBI. He was calm, serious, and professional, the kind of voice you'd expect from a federal agent.
Is this Sam Holden at 5784 Lilac Way?
Yes, it is.
To make sure I have the right person, can you confirm your date of birth is June 10th, 1980 and Social Security number 916-003475?
Yes, that's right.
Several things are happening here to lower Sam's defenses. The caller speaks like someone in authority. They know accurate personal details about him. And let's face it, if the FBI called knowing exactly who you are, you'd want to know what's going on.
Several bank accounts have been opened using your name and Social Security number. They're connected to criminal investigations involving drug cartels at the border.
What? Well, that wasn't me.
Now we've added danger, cartels, investigation, and who knows what else. Sam's emotional brain is flooded with confusion and fear. Over the next hour, the agent overwhelms Sam with more of this drug cartel story. Then he gets to the worst part.
We believe one of these cartels has compromised your Trust America bank account. We need to close it immediately or you could lose your funds.
Sometimes we hear a scam story and wonder how anyone could believe it. And maybe you wouldn't. At least not when you're imagining yourself as well rested, with no distractions and running on 100% brain power. But how about when you're not at full capacity? If they catch you at that moment, don't be so sure you wouldn't believe it too. Sam's thoughts all collapse into one idea. My money is in danger. His automatic mind is now in charge. The part of the brain that normally evaluates risk is frozen.
I'm the case agent on the task force assigned to limit your financial losses. If you follow my instructions, we can keep your money safe.
Okay, what do I need to do?
The scammer first created an emergency and now offers a lifeline. It's a psychological 1-2 punch. Fear, then rescue. And once you feel rescued, you trust the rescuer.
We need to move your funds to a secure government account while the investigation continues. Otherwise, your money could be frozen or seized.
How do I do that?
You'll need to wire your funds to a secure holding account that we've set up for all the victims in this case. Your funds will be secure there. Once the case is resolved, we'll transfer it back to your new account.
Although this example is only a few minutes long, in a real call like this, the story is spun out over hours, continuously wearing down the victim on the call. Sam is told exactly how to wire the money. He follows the instructions and sends his entire savings to what he believes is the secure government account. That's how an intelligent, reasonable person can go from answering a phone call to sending their life savings to a stranger.
Okay.
Sam was trying to finish a client project with a major deadline.
Oh, I can't get down to the next slide. Here we go. Okay, so ask yourself, what did you notice about this sequence of events? So normally when I'm in person, I ask you to tell me, but after you think about it, I'll go ahead and offer some of mine. So one of the key things I think at the very beginning is the scammer knew key personal details about who he was calling. It's like he didn't ask for this information. He said, "Are you so and so?" Knew the name, date of birth, social security number. And this is becoming more common as, with data breaches, other types of events with people getting their data compromised. Scammers are actually doing research and they know. So if you have someone calling you from the FBI, if they said, "Oh, who are you?" and asked you for that information, it might trigger something. But they call and they know all that already. That's a cue, for your brain to keep listening. And then other things mentioned in the video, the urgency, creating this situation where it seemed like some sort of crime was happening, all things to just, get that, brain going, that emotional brain going and freezing up your normal way of thinking. So let's look at, we're going to do one more video example.
One day, a fake bank alert goes out to 1,000 people, but each alert is tailored to each person, down to the last 4 digits of the person's real account number. Ellen gets one of these texts. $2,500 was charged to your Trust America account ending in 3475. If this wasn't you, call this number. That is her bank, and that is her real account number. So she calls. The voice on the other end knows her account number and even some recent transactions. Ellen is convinced she's speaking to a real fraud rep.
Hello, this is the Trust America fraud line. For security purposes, I need to verify your identity. Please confirm your name and address.
Yes, it's Ellen Cheng, 7452 Elmhurst Way.
Thank you, Mrs. Cheng. I was able to look up your account ending in 3475 from the phone number you're calling from. I see that we sent you a potential fraud alert for a recent $2,500 purchase. Was that you who made the charge?
No, that wasn't me.
And how about a recent transaction of $75.84 from Amazon?
Yes, that one's mine.
Thanks for confirming. I'm looking at your account activity now. I see the $2,500 charge and we will place a hold on that purchase. However, I'm also seeing other suspicious activity, which tells me that someone is trying to compromise your account.
Oh no, what do I do?
This may be connected to a current investigation we are conducting of theft by bank employees. The first thing we need to do is have you transfer your funds to a federal holding account to keep it safe.
How do I do that?
Do you have an online banking account?
No, I don't use online banking.
Can you get to your bank branch today?
Yes, I think so.
Great. Please get a piece of paper so you can write down the details. Go to your branch and tell them you want to wire the money in your account to the account I will give you. Remember not to mention our conversation at the branch. We suspect there might be fraud by employees, but we don't know yet where they're working. If they ask, just tell them you're making an investment and don't discuss it with anyone else. It could compromise the investigation.
Okay. So again, what did you notice about this one? I'll flag once again, knowing the personal details at the beginning, becoming more and more common. Other factors, you'll notice that they created suspicion between the person and their bank right off the bat. So employees at your bank are in on this. So don't talk to them, creating the secrecy, helping to shut down that logical thinking once again. So for both of these examples, you might think, well, and how I framed it, and if everyone is susceptible to scams, what do we do? If they're just going to be triggering our automatic brain, what hope do we have? Well, I want you to think about other people who have to operate under stress, because that's what's happening here, right? We have to operate under stress. Think of pilots or doctors, nurses, firefighters, someone who has to operate when a lot of things are going on and their stress and their urgency is triggered. What do they do? Well, we know for those people, they get a lot of training. They practice their checklists, they do simulations, and I think that the time has come where we need to do the same. So we really need to practice our responses and how we react to these sorts of situations. So that's what we're going to do today. So the first skill that we're going to practice is hanging up. Now, when I say this, I know people think, well, it's easy to hang up. Well, look how easy it is. Here's my phone. I just hung up. Well, it's not really that easy. So if you have someone through whatever means, it may not be because you actually picked up the phone. Maybe they transferred you from some other call. But let's say you get on the phone with someone who is telling you that your money is about to be stolen by a bunch of Russian hackers, or that your daughter is kidnapped and you need to pay a ransom within a minute. Is it easy to hang up then? I would say no. Are you going to hang up on the person who says they kidnapped your daughter when maybe they're playing a voice that sounds just like her? So it's not actually easy to hang up. And that's why I think we need to practice. So if you actually have your phone nearby, please humor me and doing this actually live and doing it here as I do it with you. It may help create this cue to you in future situations because you've practiced it now. Okay, so what we're going to practice today is if you end up talking to someone who says they're from the bank or they're from the government, you're going to hang up. I think this is going to make it easier. So there's so many stories, there's so many scam stories, there's so many little red flags. We really don't have the mental and cognitive capacity, I think, to try to be detectives and figure out if something is a scam or not. That's just kind of too much to ask of all of us. So I'd rather you just have a blanket rule for yourself that if you've ended up on the phone with a bank or the government or claiming to be, that you're going to hang up and you're going to call back on a number you trust. And that's just going to, eliminate all the detective work that, supposedly we're expected to do. And here's the script we're going to practice. I'm going to get my phone here. I'm hanging up now. I'll call back on a number I trust. All right. So we're going to listen to a few examples. Let's pretend that somehow we ended up on the phone with someone and they're saying some of the following things. First, we'll do the bank.
Hi, this is Daniel Foster from the Chase Fraud Department. I'm calling to verify some suspicious transactions. Did you approve a $1,500 purchase in Texas about 15 minutes ago?
Okay, there's some story here. We're ignoring the story. The story is just noise. All we know is there's someone talking to us who says they're from our bank. I'm hanging up now. I'll call back on a number I trust.
This is Linda Chen with the Online Security Unit at Wells Fargo. Our IT monitoring unit has detected a virus on your computer that is allowing someone to access your bank account.
Okay, more story, more noise. The only important thing here is you're talking to someone who just said they're from your bank. I'm hanging up now. I'll call back on a number I trust.
Hi, I'm calling from Bank of America. We're blocking a suspicious attempt to access your online banking. I'm going to send you a one-time verification code. When you receive it, please read it to me right away so I can confirm you're the rightful account holder.
Okay, more story, more noise. But we heard someone say they're from your bank. I'm calling up, I'm hanging up now. I'll call back on a number I trust. Okay, that's the bank. Let's say it's the government. And, the government is vast. I mean, any kind of government, law enforcement, federal, state, local, anybody.
This is Officer Elena Shaw with U.S. Customs and Border Protection. We have intercepted a package containing illegal materials tied to your name and address.
Okay, so I worked for the government a long time, so I feel like I can say this, but it should already be a cue to you that someone from the government is calling you, right? When does that happen? When do they have time for that? No. So again, I know it's hard. Illegal materials, Customs and Border Protection, officer so-and-so, that's gonna, trigger you right away. But again, it's all noise. The only thing that matters is someone who says they're from the government is talking to you on the phone. It's not someone that you called. Somehow they ended up with you. I'm hanging up now. I'll call back on a number I trust. All right, next.
This is Case Officer Emily Ross with the Social Security Benefits Review Office. Your payments have been suspended until you clear an outstanding tax bill.
Okay, someone else from the government. Could be Social Security, could be the FTC, could be IRS, could be, any of those. Doesn't matter. Somehow I ended up on the phone with someone who says they're from the government. I'm hanging up now. I'll call back on a number I trust. All right, last one.
This is Sergeant Alex Garcia from the San Diego Police Department. Our records show you failed to appear for mandatory jury duty, and a bench warrant for contempt of court has been issued.
Okay, so a lot of these scam calls are some form of law enforcement. So FBI, police, someone at the border, who knows? All we know is that someone who says they're from the police is on the phone with you. You didn't call them. It's time. I'm hanging up now. I'll call back on a number I trust. Now, these law enforcement scams, they might start to get threatening, right? Say, don't hang up. We're going to send an officer to your house. So just know if it's really your bank or it's really the government, no real bank or real government person or agency or law enforcement is going to mind if you want to hang up and call back. It's only the scammers that are going to mind. Okay, so next question, of course, is how do I call back on a number I trust? That's the next step. And again, if you already know this is a scam, you don't have to call anyone back. But this is a case where you're not sure, right? You're like, well, I think it's a scam, but I'm really not quite sure. Was it really the IRS calling me? I just really got to know. You can't get it off your mind. So how do you call back on a number I trust? First point I want to make is about calling and phones. So if you have your phone and you call a number, you know that's the number. Nothing's going to go wrong there, right? So great. Once you have the trusted number, you call it. Perfect. If you receive a number, you have no idea if that's the number someone's actually calling from, right? So the number that's displayed, if you have a landline, the caller ID, that can be faked. In my dad's case, I think someone's writing on the screen, by the way. That's not me. In my dad's case, through some a sequence of calls, one of the calls that came in was a caller ID that had the name of his bank on it. So this is also the case with numbers that you normally would trust. So when I said scammers do research, they might research your family member's number and they might plug in some of our family is more on social media, so they kind of figure out who they are and who we are. They might plug in your brother's number or your dad, your mom, your kid. And one thing to know about that is if you have a smartphone, you may have blocked numbers that are not in your contacts. Well, if a scammer uses a number that is in your contacts, it will ring and it will show as that person. So if they plug in my mom's number, it's going to come through and it's going to show as my mom calling. So that's kind of getting the more sinister aspect. So I just want to flag that and make that point about numbers. So any incoming number, this is a tool for scammers. They say, well, it's your bank. Look at the number I'm calling from. It's the same number as, the number on your statement or the bank website. So knowing that, the only number and the only way we trust that we're talking to our bank is going to be the number on the back of our debit card. So the customer service number that you see on the back of your debit card. Now, this is very tiny number, I know, so I recommend writing this down somewhere bigger or plugging it into your phone, having it somewhere like that. But if this is it. And again, you calling the number to your bank, great. Yes. If that number comes in, the exact same number, no. I don't know if we can remove the markings that got put on the board somehow, but anyway. All right, and for the government, so bank is easy, number on the back of your debit card. If you have some other financial institution, there's going to be, maybe you have a statement, something like that, but it's important to have these numbers available in advance. For the government, it's also fairly straightforward, although it takes a little digging, but you can know where to start. So for the federal and any federal and state government, USA.gov is the site you can go to. They have a directory of every single federal government agency, and they have a page that has every single state government website. And usually, hopefully all 50 states on their state government website, they'll also have a directory of this nature. And I know for California, we have a lot of California people on the call. Our state is just ca.gov, and they also have a directory of every government agency. And then if you're just not sure, you're too discombobulated, or it was some kind of law enforcement calling, if you have your non-emergency number handy, great. You can always call 911 and ask for the non-emergency line. But no matter what it is, you are going to that source, and you're the one who's going to be making the call. Last skill is talk to a friend. And I'd like to maybe have you think about this right now. Who's the person that you would call if you have a question? People who have other people in the house often are at an advantage here because, you're sitting next to someone, you can say, what do you think of this email I just got? Is that a scam? And it's helpful to have that resource. But if you don't have it, you do have your phone, and there's people you can call, hopefully, but we'll tell you about some people you can always call. I just want to say, just make sure it's someone supportive, because I think one of the barriers and one things that scammers take advantage of is that you might fear calling someone else because you think, oh my, they're going to think I'm stupid, when the question, you say, oh, mom's losing it, time to make some changes. No, think of, your family, your friends, call someone who is going to be supportive and listen and help you out. And I'll say, if you don't have someone immediately, I know it'll be mentioned again later, but one of the greatest resources in this nation for preventing scams is the AARP, Fraud Watch Network, and the helpline that they have to call. All of those people are ready to talk to you if you don't have someone else. They're not 24/7, but they have very extensive hours. So that's something I would recommend as well. Okay, and last thing, in person, I usually give a handout for you to take away, and I think it's important to have something going forward, because if you just listen to this and that's it may or may not help you. But based on what we've said, I want you to have a reference of your bank name handy and your friend handy that you're going to call when something comes up. And I have our little script also in yellow. I'm hanging up now. I'll call back on a number I trust. If you put this on your fridge every time you go, get something to drink or eat or whatever, and you just see that little script again, that can only help make it more of an automatic response when you need it. So I can't hand it out now, but I do have it, for free at the bottom of the homepage of my website, scamreadyfamily.com. You don't have to give your email or anything to get it. Just download it and print it out. And please read it and repeat the script often. Okay, and last thing, we can only cover so much in sessions like these. So I have more videos available. The ones you've seen are only excerpts of the videos they're part of. So I really encourage you to go and watch more. I'll be adding more as time goes on, so it's not going to be the end of it. And then also, I've found that when I give presentations in person, that the people who come, and probably similar to this session here, the people who actually bother to come and show up and listen, you're already the ones who are either more savvy, more interested in educating yourself, and generally I found, more up on scams and scam information already. So I made these videos so that they could be, shared with people who don't show up, this sort of thing. So if you can, pick someone maybe isn't likely to come and think about things like this, send them the videos, or even better, if it's someone you can see in person, watch it together and talk about it. The more you talk about it and normalize this and show, what scammers are doing with other people, the more you can spread the word and help them out. So that is my last word. Thank you very much. I'm really glad to be able to talk to you today, and I know we're going to talk more and have some questions. So I will stop sharing. Let's see.
Ooh, thank you so much, Heather.
Okay.
Now let's bring back our fraud fighter, Sarita, who's going to work with Heather to answer questions that came up in the chat. Sarita?
Heather, thank you so much for sharing all of that information with us. Great examples, and I'm so glad you were able to recover that money for your dad. So before we get to the questions, I'm seeing a few of them in the chat. I really want to inform our audience that if you feel something is not quite right, listen to your gut. Remember to pause, reflect, and protect. So it's a small step in our behavior, but it can lead to better outcomes and help us save our money. So looking at the questions, one of the questions we had here is, if I hang up, will they call back right away?
Could be, entirely possible. So I know it is really unfair just generally that we have to deal with this, right? That I was at one presentation where one of the, a man there said he just got really resentful and angry that, he had to deal with people calling him all the time and dealing with these scams. And I agree, it's not fair. Unfortunately, it's what we're living through today. So if someone's calling you back and you have blocked, calls from your contacts, then great. And as I know someone I know on the chat here is flagging, I'm going to remind, it's always better not to answer calls in the first place and let them go to voicemail. And you can avoid this, some of this, by doing that. I just like to train and talk about what happens if you do end up on the call, because it doesn't always happen because you answered the phone, right? You might have gotten an email and you thought it was from a company that you needed to call. And in the course of that conversation, they end up transferring you to someone who says they're from their bank. I mean, they're very tricky. So I don't want to, leave you defenseless. So yes, they could call back, but again, in that situation, I'd really, not answer the phone at that point. If someone keeps bugging you, it's not the bank or the government. I can tell you that. I can tell you that. So again, just, let it go to voicemail, or hopefully you've set up your phone to, not receive those calls in the first place.
Great advice. And I love that fridge card where you have the message to hang up, and call back on the real number.
And I should add, on the back of the fridge card, I also have a lot of contact numbers that you can refer to. So it has the AARP hotline number. It has the customer service numbers of the most frequently impersonated companies, the websites for the government that I mentioned. Those are all on there too. So sorry, go ahead, Sri.
Thank you. Okay. So someone has a comment over here. It says, when you're talking about how they ask you for a code and to call it back, to repeat it back, it says that actually happens. They text you a code. They want you to read it back to make sure that they are talking to the correct account holder. However, this is a call that you, the account holder, initiated. Do you have a comment about that? I mean,
yeah, I mean, if you have if you're on with a financial institution or anywhere else that, say a company, and you're positive that you have the right number. So again, for your bank, it's pretty straightforward. Companies and a little more challenging. But if you know you have actually called your bank, then fine. I know some companies actually do that. They ask for your one-time code. I would say, this isn't easy. I would not do business with those companies because that means that their security posture and their, posture towards scams is not good. They should not be asking you, for one-time codes because that is something that scammers do. So, be absolutely positive that you have called the right number. And then of course, you have to share it. But, let's encourage our people we do business with to adopt some better, security procedures. So yeah, that's all I have to say. Unfortunately, scammers mirror real things so well. That's their whole goal, that, getting them, they get mixed together. But so I just be, if someone's asking you for a code, I would even, if you're like, how did I get on this call? Sometimes you're like, did I call them? Did they call me? Just hang up and call back on the number you trust. Don't even think about it. That's what I would recommend.
Thank you. This is kind of a follow-up to the same question. If a scammer has the real phone number of your bank and you use the phone number on the back of your bank card to call the bank and check on whether the call was legit, can the scammer intercept your call?
I mean, not that I have ever heard or know of. If you have a phone and you call a number, if we've gotten to the point where scammers can intercept and take over calls like that, then we're in really big trouble. But I believe that if you are calling out on a number, you are calling that number, no question. It's just those incoming calls. Any incoming call can have a fake number on it. So that's the main point there.
Very good. Well, this is a comment. It says scammers tell you not to talk to anyone else, keeping you isolated. And I think that's a typical
yes,
operation that they use. Yes.
Yeah.
So what else? Let me see.
Yeah. No, that's absolutely in my dad's case. They told him that the employees at the bank were in on it, some plot to criminal enterprise to take the money in accounts at the bank, and said, when you go into the bank, don't tell them, don't talk to them about it because they might be one of the ones who are trying to do this. So, anyone who asks you to keep a secret, if we want to go with red flags, that's one of the biggest ones of all. Keep a secret. Don't tell anyone you know. Who does that except a scammer? So, yeah.
Yes, absolutely. One of the things we always train people to is that if there's a sense of urgency, you didn't initiate the call, be suspicious of it. Think twice about it. I don't know if you want to share this, but this person asked, did you recover the money for your dad and how?
Oh, yeah. So I shared that with the volunteers on the call before this started, but yes, I should have mentioned, I was able to, so I found out about it fast enough. So, I think to have any chance of recovering the money, often it needs to be done very quickly. So I found out about what was happening because I happened to be also an owner on my dad's account for various reasons. And so he had gone in twice already to do some transactions at his bank branch. And on the third occasion, he went to a different one. And that bank manager called me and said that this doesn't seem right. So that was great, except a bunch of it had already gone out. So part of it was a wire transfer that I think we were just able to recall in time. And then the other part was a cashier's check that was sent to Virginia. And in that case, this is my plug to be proactive in these cases. I literally just went on Google Maps and found the nearest police station to where he had mailed this check. And I called that police station, went through to the criminal division, And lucky for us, the detective who answered was part of a, I think, recently disbanded financial crimes unit. So they were able to get engaged, help us contact the bank where his check had been just cashed. So again, it was very soon after. It was within a day of this check being cashed that we were able to recover it. Fortunately, also the account where it was deposited, there were several other deposits from other older victims, and it was owned by an older victim. So we were, in the course of this, we actually got a few other people's money back too. So I feel good about that. But yeah, again, if a lot of time has passed, I mean, you do want to report it, absolutely, because even if something doesn't happen immediately, you never know. Your case might end up being part of some, bigger case that they uncover later, and you want to make sure, there's a record of that, and that, they're able to get in touch with you. So I would say, luck plus effort, but also, the timing came into play in our case.
Great that you were able to recover that.
Yeah.
This person says my mother was getting a pop-up on her computer supposedly about her antivirus, but it was from another virus company that is not what she uses. They were able to close it because it was blocking her screen from being able to see it. However, it keeps popping up, so not sure how to deal with that. So is it a virus or
so actually this is the very way that my dad's scam also started, with a pop-up on his computer, and I've actually gotten those on my computer. So I do have antivirus software, and so I was puzzled, how am I getting this pop-up? So I actually called my real antivirus provider and asked them about it. And this is what they told me. So don't, I'm not a technical person. Don't totally quote me on this. But they said those are actually not viruses, right? But they are a form of pop-up that might be activated because you visited a certain website. You don't even have to have clicked on a link. Like again, I don't know how this happened. So it may be a pop-up that is somehow still active on the computer. And I actually don't know how to remove it, but I'm sure that might be something, to consult with a real computer person on. But as far as I was told at one point, those are not actually viruses, but they will be annoying. They keep, my dad, I think he still keeps getting some, but I guess until we can figure out how to remove it, I think we can know it's not doing other things to the computer, as far as I know, and that it should just be ignored. And there are ways to unfreeze. So this might, I would look up this more. I don't know for Macs, but on Windows computers, if Control Alt Delete to bring up the task manager, you can always close the pop-up that way, or just turn off the computer and restart it again. That's another way. It usually disappears then.
Yes. And could we post the website again for the fridge card so that they have the information? Maybe Harish, can do that. And okay, let's see. So another question is it best to delete and report spam calls or block the numbers? So many come daily.
I would recommend definitely, so that, there's a little thing that says report and block, something like that. Yeah, definitely do that. Report it so that, your telecom provider can get more information about these, these numbers that are coming in. Hopefully, if they get enough reports, they start to, flag those. And then, yeah, block and delete. I read, you may have read a story, I think in the fall, during the Medicare season, of people who were getting calls 50 times a day, essentially making their phone unusable. So yeah, anything you can do for these voicemails to report them, please do that.
The other question we have is what can we as the account owner do to have the bank contact us if there is a suspicious transaction or something that you normally don't transact or may be suspicious? What is the bank doing to protect seniors?
I think it really depends on the bank. But I know I've heard, I haven't, looked in the details for a lot of banks. I think one great thing to do is In my dad's case, I was actually a co-owner of this account, so they could call me, but I think there is some possibility to add someone else. I don't know if it's regular banks or other financial institutions, hopefully it'll be more widespread. If there is a way to add someone else for informational purposes to your account, I would recommend doing that. Someone, who then they can't control the account, but they might get an alert, if something is going wrong. And then as far as, suspicious transaction alerts, that's something I guess you would just have to contact your bank. I think some banks do better than others at this.
You could also put a credit limit, like a debit limit. As soon as something unusual occurs in your account, they will contact you and ask you for that. This person says, I get many spam emails that have an unsubscribe button. Is it safe to use this? What are your thoughts on that?
Oh, yeah. I never click the unsubscribe button that's in an email. So actually, I really don't click on any links in any emails whatsoever. So that's the topic of another. I gave this procedure for banks and government. Really, it should be your procedure for every communication, but I don't like to emphasize that right off the bat because it's a little overwhelming. But scammers absolutely use that little unsubscribe. It's a link. You click on links, we know it can do bad things. So what I do is if my email provider has their option to delete and unsubscribe, I'll click that. So depending on what email you have, I know my Gmail often will have their own button. So it's, way at the top. It's not part of the email. It'll say, unsubscribe and delete. So I might use that. And if that isn't an option, I don't do anything. I just delete it and, report spam. There's a little, thing for your email provider to report spam, but a scammer isn't going to care if you unsubscribe. So yeah, I recommend not clicking on that button.
So we're running short on time here. There's one last question for you. Is it a good idea to freeze your credit? Pros and cons.
Oh, I've never heard any con for freezing your credit. So absolutely freeze your credit. I don't, there's so many things we could talk about for prevention as well. And I don't have it on my website yet, but I mean, AARP already has, you don't have to look at my website for this, all the things you can do, preventatively in a more technical way. But yeah, if you haven't frozen your credit, one thing I think maybe holds people back, I didn't realize, is when I brought it up with someone, they thought freezing your credit meant that it would affect your current credit cards in some way, like you'd have to close them or not be able to use them. And so just in case that might be holding you back, it has no impact, on your current, credit profile. All it does is it keeps other people from taking out credit in your name. So credit cards, loans, things like that. And the way it's done, you can always unfreeze it if you need to get a new credit card or a new loan or thing like that. But yeah, as far as, number one through the top of the list, that would absolutely be something I would do.
Thank you, Heather. And now back to you, Jacqueline.
Okay. Thank you, Heather and Sarita, for a very informative presentation, not to mention how necessary it is, unfortunately. So join us next month for Tea and Coffee Tuesday on May 12th for our next program, where we will celebrate Asian American Pacific Islander Heritage Month with Mahjong 101. Led by AARP volunteer and Mahjong aficionado, Jeannie Wang. This beginner-friendly virtual program will help you to learn the basics of this classic and increasingly popular strategy game. If you would like to view previous programs or learn more about the Tea and Coffee Tuesday monthly series, check out the link that has been put in the chat. Again, thank you so much, Heather and Sarita, for today's excellent, informative presentation. Thank you for our Tea and Coffee Tuesdays volunteer, Sarita, who pulled double duty today, Haresh, Connie, Joyce, and Vincent, as well as the AARP staff. And of course, we do it for you. Thank you for joining us. We hope you enjoyed today's presentation and took away some key tips that will help you to stay fraud-free. I'm your AARP volunteer host, Jacqueline Cole. This concludes today's program, and thank you. Have a great day and a great rest of the week. Bye, y'all.